So now that we effectively have an entire 2D platformer to play along with, there's a couple of things that we are going to have to do when we actually start designing levels. And I want to show you one way of working with that. So what we can do is we can just go into our tilemap and start putting down some things like extra platforms. So if we have like this type of platform, we can just put a couple of those down. Suddenly we can like platform up there. But what if we want this platform to have some kind of behavior? At that point, it would need to be its own actor, right? Because this is just a tile map. You can't assign behavior to specific tiles or anything like that. So as far as like these static platforms go, like this is entirely fine. Like we can just use these as static platforms, and for the most part, nothing is like really wrong with that. But what if we want these to be able to like move, for instance? Well, that is where tilemap actors come in. So let's make one of those. We can go into blueprint classes and we can look for tilemap actor. Paper tilemap actor is what they're called. And let's call this moving platform. And what we can do in here is we have a renderer component where we can assign any tilemap that we want. So maybe don't assign the level tile maps here. What we can do instead is we can just make a new tile map for the platform. So platform, select this, and then just set up all the settings properly. So that will be 16 by 16. The height will just be 1, and the width will be 3 tiles wide. And now we have a tile map that is just a platform. And we can pick that for our tile map actor. It doesn't seem to show within here, but if we drag this into the world, we will see that it actually does properly show. Now, we do need to, again, make sure that this is set to properly using the right pixel scaling. So I think that's 0.25 in our case. And now we have this one actor that behaves as an actor that can have code to itself in the game that we can place in the world. It'll also have like its own collision, just like any other tile map, any other sprite can. But we can code this to move around. So let's do that real quick. We can add in like a start position and an end position. And I like to make those actor references so that I can easily set them up in the editor. So what I do is I make these two exposed, and then I also add in a is moving forward, which will be a bool that doesn't need to be exposed, and then a movement speed. This is all fairly like generalized Unreal stuff. This is not just for 2D. This is like, you can also do this for a 3D platform, obviously. And then in the event tick, what we do is we get the movement speed, we multiply that with the delta seconds, and we set the actor location to the get actor location plus our movement speed multiplied by a direction. So the way that we get that direction is our current actor location and whatever we're moving toward. So we can either toward the start position or the end position. Which one we pick entirely depends on whether or not we're moving forward. So we're going to get an actor location, but which one we'll get from a select node. And we'll select that based on this bool. So if we are moving forward, we will be moving toward the end position, and otherwise we'll be moving toward the start position. And we can use the find look at rotation node from our start to our end, and then turn that into an X vector to get just a normalized direction for that. So we do all of that, which is like quite a lot of nodes here, but that's what you get with Blueprint. We do all of that multiplied, of course, by our direction. And that is what we add to our current actor position. Then we kind of just copy over this whole select node situation, because what we do is we want to check distance to, and then the other actor is, again, depending on what we're moving toward, start position or end position. And if that distance to is, let's say, less than 10 units, we simply flip the is moving forward to its opposite value. So we get is moving forward, a not bool, to get its new value. Now what we can do is we can put this moving platform into the world. Do pay attention to the fact that when you put something in the world, it will likely get put up against the background layer, and you need to manually go back and make sure that it actually aligns with your front layer. So it's nice to just set your tile map to exactly be at y equals 0. So that way, whenever you put something into the world, you can just say y equals 0 and be fairly certain that it just is fine. Now, I can move this thing freely around, which maybe is not what you want. Maybe you want this to be snapped to your grid as well. And that's what I personally like. And this requires you with a little bit of finagling around. We can make it work. What we'll do here is the very first thing is I will set the location of everything just to 0, 0, 0 for the tile map. Then we need to figure out what the dimensions of one of these squares is. And we have set this to, I believe, 16 by 16. Yes, and then the pixel per unit is 0.25. So that's increased by 4 times. So each one of these squares is 64 by 64 Unreal. So we want to offset the X and the Z by 32 units. And I'll show you why in a moment. And then we want to set a new snapping option for the distances to be 64 units. And the way you do that is you go into editor preferences, which you can get to through edit and then editor preferences. And you look for the word snapping. There you will get to the level editor viewports. And here in the decimal grid sizes, you can just add a new one. And that will be whatever size you need it to be. So in our case, I think that is 64, if my math is correct. Going back into our 2D level, now if I go here, I can set up 64. And if I just look at this from the right perspective, and I set it to lit mode, you can see that the grid from Unreal actually matches up with the grid from the tile map itself. So now when I drag in an actor, it will snap itself to that grid, but it will still set itself to the backmost layer, which is a little bit of an annoyance. As you can see, it's very far back, but if I set this to Y0 now, it snaps to the grid of the level editor itself, which is quite nice. So now, with that, we have our starting position and our ending position. And for these, we can just kind of use a special kind of empty actor called a target point. Which we can just put anywhere in the world. Again, it snaps itself back to like minus 33,000 for some reason, but we can just copy it over real quick and put another one over here. And from there we can say, hey, your start position will be this target point and your end position will be that target point. And now if we run the game, it doesn't have a speed because the speed is set to 0. That is very funny. Let's set the movement speed as an exposed variable as well and set that to like 200 units or something like that. So that means it'll be moving 200 units per second. So now we can see that we have a platform that moves back and forward. And that's all thanks to the tilemap actor allowing us to make a tilemap and as its like rendering component and as its collision component and everything like that. We can even use the tilemap actor to in real time change what tilemap this thing renders as, which can be a little wacky, but can also be fun. And we can add any code we want to any tilemap that we need to. So we'll also probably do one for one-directional platforms that we can jump through from the bottom, but stand on when we come on from the top, that kind of stuff. But this is the tilemap actor. So this is a very useful and powerful tool to be able to use in your actual like 2D level design. Again, there's a little bit of an issue with some of the 2D level design stuff because you preferably want all of your actors to just be set to Y equals 0 when you drag them in. One way to fix that is just to go to your moving platform construction script and on construct set the actor location to get actor location and then split both of the structure pins. X goes into X, Z goes into Z, and Y is just going to be forced to 0. That way, whenever I drag in a moving platform, it will actually set itself to Y equals 0. But you need to do that for every single actor. This is not ideal. I don't know if there's a way around this, to be honest with you. This is only really relevant for like dynamic and interactable elements anyway. Most of the other stuff you're going to implement within the tilemap itself, where this is not a problem. And a very big thank you to all my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help support the channel or get any of the project files in any of my tutorials, there's a link down below to the Patreon page to support me, or alternatively as a YouTube member. And of course, an extra massive thank you to my Cave Digger tier supporters, Sir J. Thomas,